Training is one of the most crucial elements to consider when selecting the right people to build your project. An unqualified worker installing material or equipment will lead to costly errors or long-term warranty issues. When you have a highly skilled tradesperson, you can bet they have the skills and know how to complete the task on time and on budget while providing you with something that will last. Most people are familiar with college and university streams of education, but how many know about trades training centers throughout the province? There are over 100 of them, and they're geared towards guiding apprentices through a full apprenticeship with the goal of achieving their certificate of qualification in their chosen trade. One of the best parts is that they earn while they learn. You won't find that at any university or college. With trades training centers, you won't go deep into debt, but you will get a great education and a great job, and you'll be setting yourself up for a really strong retirement. In this episode of OCS Talks, we have Scott Wood, Provincial Training Director of the Ontario Sheet Metal Workers Training Centre, and we're examining trades training centers and how they foster an apprentice's journey to becoming a highly skilled journey person.
Welcome to OCS Talks, your source for all things related to Ontario's unionized ICI construction sector.
I'm Brian Barron, CEO of the Ontario Construction Secretariat. Scott, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Brian. It's great to be here. I just wanted to say a thank you again to OCS for all the great research you guys have done in the past. It really helps our industry leaders out there preparing for the next year to come. And a lot of our industry in the sheet metal side, we go to your March 7th conference or whenever it is in March, the State of the Industry, the Outlook, which is great. I think it's a fantastic thing you guys do.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's we enjoy putting that stuff on. We enjoy trying to get that information out to the membership and really kind of help to elevate kind of everybody's skill level for sure. So Scott, when I first joined the OCS, you took me on a tour of your training center. And honestly, I mean, to put it frankly, I was blown away by the tour and more importantly, the program you offer your apprentices. It was very clear to me that the goal is really to give the apprentices every opportunity to build the skills that they will need in the workplace. Can you walk us through how someone would join your training center, how they would enroll in it?
Yeah, of course. Well, the first thing too, you know what, I'm glad you enjoyed the tour. I've taken quite a few people through and they are blown away. Typically, they don't understand how much effort and money and everything is put into the training center. So I appreciate that. Like, I think the goal back when our training center was developed was we wanted to create the highest level of education we could for our apprentices coming through the system, and we wanted to give them, a great place to work where there's no distractions. You're sheet metal pretty much all the time in our school, and that's what we've, our mission was to create that. We wanted to be the best at what we did, and we strived for years now. We opened in 2006. We've been moving along quite well. It's 2025. We're almost 20 years in. So it's been going great. For someone wanting to come to our training center, well, typically the first thing, if you want to become a sheet metal worker in the sheet metal trade, it's a compulsory trade. So you must be a registered apprentice with ministry or SDO, or that's got to be the one thing you have to do. I come from the union sector of this employment, so I can kind of give you the breakdown of what you would have at a union and how you join, how you become a tradesperson, a skilled tradesperson through that avenue. And I can break down the non-union side as well a little bit, but they're very, very similar in the ways. But typically what happens when there is a call and there's demand for new apprentices, unions will do an intake. And what that means is they will bring people that are looking for a job and they'll apply. They'll go through a series of testing, like they'll do an aptitude test. They'll go through getting their education qualifications, certified, their grade 10 or whatever they need. And I guess most unions are the same. They also, as soon as that happens and they're qualified to start coming in, they put them through your women's training, your work ready, they do it's called just let me think of this one. It's the four, we can edit this out, right? So that's okay. It's the four-step ministry work awareness thing that they also do as well. And of course, your health and safety, working at heights, all those things that I've mentioned before. Uh, Once that happens, they would be registering you with the ministry or SDO. I believe it is now that's what we're doing. Um, at that point, you are considered um, a registered apprentice, and you would be dispatched to a company. Within 2 to 3 months, usually what happens is you get a feel for the job, you get a feel for the industry you want to continue in this trade, or in the other part is the employers are happy with what you're doing and they want to, they want to take you on. At that point, the union will probably offer you a contract, and the contract will just kind of identify some of the things that union members benefit from, like your actual benefits, your pension, um, your wage schedule for the next few years, what to expect, how many hours of apprenticeship are expected under your contract. They'll explain your night school and your day school, how everything works out. For the non-union sector, I would assume it's similar, but it's more or less you have to go out and find the job, and then you have to talk to the employer to become a registered apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
Once you be, then your employer is going to register with the ministry. That's the idea of how it works. And again, I would imagine they would do the same thing and give you a pathway of what your wage schedule is going to be, what your benefits are, if you have a pension, all those type of things. So the one thing I do find is um, a lot of people do call us here, and they're like, I want to come and do sheet metal. And we have to explain to them, no, you have to be registered with the ministry if you want to come to a training delivery agent that's teaching the 308 curriculum. So it's very it has to be that way. I think it's otherwise we're not running a profit school here. We're just trying to make ends meet, and we're trying to make sure that everyone is trained well.
You're registered as an apprentice. You become sort of indentured to an employer. You're going to sign contract with the union. And then at that point, that's going to trigger the education side of things, which is where you guys would get involved at that point.
Yes, yeah. So when you are a registered apprentice, you'll be put on a list, and they will ask you at the beginning what your preferred TDA is. If you want to go to a college, you want to go to a training center, or whatever it is, you get to choose like your top two choices, and then you're on our list, and we can see you, and we'll be able to offer you a class in the upcoming months that are going. I do advise new apprentices to maybe wait a year or so before they want to start getting into the schooling program. They've got time throughout their apprenticeship. And just so that they're familiar and they're getting a little bit more accustomed to the trade and understanding more about the trade, and they're more prepared for when they come to school. A lot of unions,
making sure it's a good fit for them, right? You want to make sure that it's a good fit, that they're going to see some success in whatever trade that they're in.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, because a lot of unions out there, they do offer you night school, and they want you to go through the night school program. Will kind of set you up and prepare you for what's going to happen during day school, and it's a nice way to kind of travel into it. It kind of works off it.
Well, that transitions pretty well into sort of my next question around this. So, earlier this year, you and I had the opportunity to attend the Trades Trainer Conference in Kingston. And it was put on by the Provincial Building Trades Council. And I heard the term for the first time, earn while you learn. Can you tell us kind of what that means and how that's different from somebody who enrolls in a skilled trades program through a traditional college?
Yeah, so earn while you learn. It's a great concept, and it's good. Like I went through that when I was going through my apprenticeship. It was kind of, I didn't have the money to go and spend a whole semester or 2 semesters at school every couple of years. I wouldn't be able to do it, and this kind of pathway gives you that opportunity to you're working for a little while, and then what happens once you register for like an 8-week block period, you can apply for your EI benefits, and that will give you the money as you're unemployed, but you're not forced to try and look for work at that point. You're strictly, you're going to school. But I do say that the ministry also gives you lots of different avenues. Like, so they'll help cover childcare. They will help cover your travel allowance. If you're traveling outside, if you're coming from a distance over 99 kilometers, I think you get $251 a week from the ministry on top of your EI. At our training center for the members that come are all across Ontario, We also give like a bursary for gas and travel as well on top of that. So if you're traveling outside of 99 kilometers from our training center and you're a union member, that pays into the PTTF and the trust fund. The union will also pay you another $600 on top of your for your 8 weeks. They'll pay you another $600 for your travel.
So bottom line is, I mean, you're working in the trade, so you're employed working in the trade, and then as you go to those school sections, that's when your EI kicks in. So you're not seeing that lapse in pay. Now it's obviously, I guess, a bit of a reduction because it's EI, but the point is your pay continues along the way. Whereas if you look at a more sort of traditional college type setting for skilled trades, it's you're paying a tuition, you're going to school effectively full time. You're probably not doing that work in between all of the classes the same way that you would see with a training center like yours.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a huge deal, and also the hours that you accumulate while you're in school are going to go towards your contract as well. Um, at the at our training center too, our tuition is if you're a member and you're paying into the PTTF, like the Provincial Training Trust Fund, your tuition is reimbursed to you. So at the beginning of this, what it would cost for you to come to school as a union member is $400 tuition will be your deposit. You would um, after that, it's we do have a textbook, which a lot of the unions give out to the apprentices for free, which is $100. The rest of that is you don't pay for parking, you don't pay for lockers, there's no ancillary fees. Your $400 will get reimbursed to you at the end if you complete. Um, so you really have nothing.
Now let's talk a bit about sort of the funding for the actual center. So with the students, their tuition is largely reimbursed afterwards. But what about like what role do the unions, what role do the employers or contractors, or even the government play in helping to fund the training center? How does that work?
So going back to like 2003, I think that the industry found like there was an issue that they wanted to deal with. They wanted the education system to be better, and they wanted to try and do something on their own that was more helpful, and they had a little bit more control over. So at that point, they decided, in our case for the sheet metal workers in Ontario, that the employers and the laborers got together, not the laborers, but the labor and management really decided, joined a provincial training trust fund board. At that point, they decided through collective bargaining that they were going to put so much money an hour, and employers were going to match it. So they decided in 2003 that it was going to be 12 cents an hour. So every man hour worked in Ontario through a union member, we're giving 24 cents an hour putting into the Provincial Training Trust Fund. So it's a jointly owned venture that they're doing. So which is great, because I think that's tough for a lot of, especially when collective bargaining comes around, and people are kind of rallying for each other and trying to get the most money and trying to get the best work. So they try to work together and they try and keep it like that. But the original idea was that they were going to work together to build this training facility that was going to give our members the best possible way, and non-members come here as well. So like we don't strictly tie to union or non-union. It's whoever is a registered apprentice in Ontario can come to our training center. So the idea was to have like a positive outlook and try and look to the future and try and build our skilled trades to a higher level.
That's a significant investment when you consider, 12 cents an hour from each side going into, an education fund. I think that's a pretty admirable thing. Now, in terms of the government's role in this, and, you mentioned before the term TDA, which is Training Delivery Agent. How does that work? Because I understand that there's funding that this kind of aligns with the university or college. Trying to think of the best way to say this, but the university or college funding model, the TDA kind of speaks to that a little bit. Am I correct with that?
Yeah. So what the ministry has done over the years is they've created a per diem for how many people you're training at the centers and at the colleges as well. So they give you a per diem for how many seats are in the class. Typically, that's how the everything goes. And to be honest, without that money, like it would be very tough. Like in colleges were also like they received that as well. It's just when the trades training centers started receiving it's a huge help because we are putting some money into ourselves, but I mean we wouldn't be able to do it without the ministry's backing and all their support that they give us. I feel like they have really put in a lot of money to training and skilled trades over the years, which is it's great. There's grants that we've been that we would receive and we can apply for to help upgrade equipment, even build onto facilities. Now they're even like letting us get new software. We're talking about changing into virtual reality, augmented reality. We're doing stuff like that, updating curriculum. Like it's a really good thing, and we feel like now we're getting a lot of the support, a lot more and more of the support over the years. I've been here for 14, 15 years doing this, and it's really been great what the ministry has put in over the years to help us out and kind of get us to where we want to be.
So you've got sort of this kind of three-way funding model. You've got the union side, you've got the employer side, then you've got the government side coming in to really help to build that training up to appropriate level to make sure that people are coming away with kind of the right
Yes.
information. So it's interesting. Like I think back to kind of my college days, and the first college that I went to two, and the second one was a result of sort of a bit of I would say a lackluster experience at the first one. But I remember one of my teachers in that first week that I attended college saying to us that they weren't entirely sure that some of the practices that were in the curriculum were still being done within the industry. And I'm sure you can appreciate that as someone who was working full time to pay for my tuition, which was a pretty hefty sum, for a young person. That was not the most inspiring thing that you could hear, is that, what you're being taught may not fully reflect what's being done now. So, how do you make sure, and I think you sort of partially answered through, being able to update your software, that kind of stuff, updating technology, but how do you make sure that you're teaching the apprentices the skills that they're ultimately going to be using in the workplace? So those relevant, those, up-to-date practices that are out there. How do you guys deal with that?
The first thing is, so like as you were talking about a training delivery agent, that's what we're considered. That's what the colleges are considered, as someone that could give the training, and more or less it's they have to deliver the 308A sheet metal curriculum, and they have to have the capabilities of doing all that. What we have, which I think is kind of special outside of maybe like a different avenue, is we have industry experts that sit on our full board, and at our board meetings bi-monthly, we sit down and we talk about what's happening in the industry. We talk about what's needed to be focused on. We develop extracurricular training as well to kind of receive that. Like we've put money into welding, we're putting money into siding and decking, we're putting money into architectural sheet metal, like little things that we need in the industry that maybe the 308A curriculum gives us some of it, but not as much as what we would like. Even testing and balancing, we put a lot of money into creating courses that work with that. It's kind of we have a good system the way it works because we see these industry experts in our board all the time. So it's a great avenue for us to kind of take from them and try and work what we need to do. So I love the fact that they work together. And sometimes it's hard because you do have people sitting on both sides. And but generally it's for the greater good. Like we're looking to create an atmosphere in the sheet metal industry that we're going to produce the highest level of sheet metal workers in Ontario. And that's what our goal is. So I think they have the right mindset of that's how we're gonna continue this, and we're gonna keep putting money into it, and we're gonna keep developing it so we can move further into the future. And like you said, like we're looking at advances. Like I remember when I was going through, and I used to think the old guys that were there and the old journeypersons that were around, I'd sit there and be like, oh, they're just, that's the way they do it. That's not, there's other ways. And I don't want to be that old guy saying this is the only way to do it. We're looking at, we're looking at creating new training ways or trying to find out what's the best way for learners now. So I think um, we're exploring different avenues, and I've got some ideas, and we've been working with a couple of different companies and talked to them about how we can create a better atmosphere, a better learning experience for the apprentices. So we're always thinking ahead. We're trying to get new technology in. We're trying to work with it. I think the days of um, what we were taught, we were forced into, and it was kind of almost like you had to memorize everything to understand it, or you had to go look up in a book. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of times I find um, the older journey persons in our trades, they have it there because they have experience. They learned it through memorization or doing it and doing it and doing it. They're the new apprentices that are coming up are very resourceful. They may not be holding all that information in their head, but they have it in their phones. Like I could
Yeah.
ask, an 18 to 19-year-old to, a question that they wouldn't even have a clue what the answer. They shouldn't have a clue what the answer would be, but they'd find it 15, 20 seconds, then come back to you. So we gotta take that on and be like, okay, we're gonna appreciate this, and we're gonna try and work with it to try and help them develop as best they can.
It's funny because it's, I have this discussion with my kids all the time. Like when we went to school, teachers would go, "Oh, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket. You got to remember times tables. You got to remember all this other stuff." And meanwhile, every
Yeah,
one of us now are carrying around effectively the world's knowledge kind of thing in this little device that sure, like when you're proficient with it, you can look up virtually anything. So
yeah.
it is that changing world. Now, in terms of, you know, apprentices getting ready to sort of leave the center, whether it's in first year apprentice, a second, third, fourth, whatever the story is. How do you test the apprentice's knowledge to make sure that when they leave your facility, they're ready to go? They've got that strong foundational knowledge to be able to kind of, to operate in the workplace.
A lot of it is testing. Like we do testing and assignments, and we put some real world activities. A lot of the times when they're coming to training centers, we have the laboratories like the welding labs, the testing and balancing labs, the shops. We create the environment that they're going to see out in the industry. So um, we try and give them at least theoretical, but mostly hands-on skills that they're going to be using out in the industry. I'd really like to do more of that, and we've been looking into doing a little bit more virtual reality, which is kind of those concepts where you can't show in a shop or in a building that are out in this, like out in the job sites, to kind of mimic those. We're gonna start using virtual reality on those, or augmented reality, so they get that feel for it and they have that idea of it. I think it's a really cool kind of way, and it's kind of more engaging for them. But we're changing. Our curriculum is always developing. Like we're always trying to update it and keep it up with the times, and make it more interactive for the apprentices that are coming through. I think one of the main things you need is high quality teachers or instructors. And we've been lucky enough here at our training center that we've had some great instructors over the years, and we've brought in some new instructors who are just adding to the experience of being here. Like most of the apprentices, when they come here, they're having fun, they're enjoying it, and they're learning. We're very strict. We have a very strict attendance policy. Our pass rate is higher than most. We have a 70%, not an average. It's in every class. We only allow so many three absences. Lates or can be, we're strict about it because you want to put them out. This is the real world now. Like
Yeah.
this is an actual job site. So it's not come to class and if you pass the test, great. We follow through with the apprentices here. We give them the opportunity to stay late, come in early, to have the extra help. The tutoring is always available at our training center. Um, you can ask whatever instructor you want. Everybody here is pretty much myself I was an instructor. Joe, the superintendent, I guess you would call him, he's the manager of training and delivery. He was an instructor for 10 years, and most of our instructors in here are 6 to 10 years experience. So
I like the fact that, they have to not only be present, but they also have to be able to perform, which really kind of reflects that work world scenario, the expectation that they're going to have on them. Now, you touched on it briefly, so I want to come back a little bit. And it's one of the things that was brought up at the Trades Trainer Summit. And there was a fair bit of discussion around this, around the different ways that people learn. And I'm sure there's a million models out there, but most of them are centered around sort of 4 different ways. So you've got visual, you've got auditory, you've got reading and writing, and then you've got the hands-on side of things. And I know for myself, I'm definitely a hands-on learner. Giving me a textbook and asking me to figure something out from that is very difficult for me. But if you show me and let me actually build it, number one, I'm going to figure it out pretty quick, but I'm always going to remember it. Now, how do you deal with that? Because presumably you get people that come in from all different backgrounds. You get people that come in with different learning styles. So how are you addressing that just to make sure that they do find success through their apprenticeship?
That's a good question. We definitely have to work at that. It is, you're right. People do not learn the same way, and we find it all the time. So we do try and respect the fact of how people learn and what they can learn, and we work with everybody in the classes. We try and develop our curriculum so it is more hands-on. People out of the trades are typically more visual learners or hands-on learners than they would be more auditory or reading and writing or that type of thing. So our curriculum is more based on that. The experiences that we can recreate in the building is what the main focus is. So we're actually doing the same stuff you would do out in jobs, and we're actually going with the apprentices and giving them the opportunity to do it. Although then we're showing them first a lot of the time, and then letting them take it on themselves and let them problem solve and let them get through all the things that can happen in the while you're building something or while you're creating something, while you're welding. Like we go through all troubleshooting in the welding, and then we kind of give them those little breaks in their class where they have to, we may tangle up some wire inside the machine, or we'll change the voltage settings on them and just see how they react and how they. So we do give them the opportunity to, you're here, you're an apprentice, you're not perfect, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to try and learn through those mistakes. As I always said, as an apprentice, when I'm teaching the basic, I get a lot of basic night school, and I still help out teaching that because I enjoy it. I tell the apprentices, I go, is there somebody in your job site or in your shop that, you know, they seem to know everything. Every time you screw something up and you go to them and they'd be like, oh, this is how you fix it. And you think, wow, they're brilliant. And I'm like, well, you know what? They've made that mistake already. So a lot of times you're just going to learn through your experiences. And it's like, we give them the opportunity to do it more than once here if they can't succeed, right? The opportunity is always there for them to learn, and making mistakes is it's not a bad thing. It's definitely something that I've learned from. When I make a mistake, and when I was an apprentice, I learned from it right away. And most of the times you have to make mistakes and learn from it. You'll never make the mistake again.
I mean, the fact is, you get out there, it doesn't always work the way it's written down on paper. It's a matter of kind of saying, okay, well, that's not exactly what I expected to see. How do I figure my way through this?
Yeah, I definitely. I've seen it out in the field. I've seen it out in the industry, working in shops and being on the job sites. It's you have a drawing that's saying this is what's happening, and then you look up and you look around and say this is not what's happening.
Yeah, this is not what I expected.
And your foreman on the site's going to tell you, okay, doesn't matter what's that. This is what we have to do. Let's get it finished, and you have to fix how it's finished. And unfortunately, sometimes in the job sites, the sheet metal is not really the small stuff that's in the air. It's the bigger stuff. So we have to obviously develop and build everything by hand and install it, because it's a lot of times it's very large. So it can be tough, but it's a great avenue for people that really like working with their hands, and they like those problem solving things. A trade is the way to go.
Now, one of the things that struck me when you took me on the tour was, as soon as I walked through the front doors of your facility, there was a series of showcases in the front entrance that had, really a whole series of sheet metal projects. And I see some of them in behind you right now. Can you tell me a little bit about, I mean, I understand it's a competition that you guys put on, but what's the purpose of that?
Well, the main purpose, like years ago, I don't know how it started, but years ago it was, they would have the convention for the union side. And at some point, the management side wanted to be involved and they wanted to create some sort of showcase for the sheet metal. So what it developed is at this conference that they're having is they incorporate a sheet metal competition where we do theory testing, drafting testing, and then we ultimately build a project like you see behind me. So that started years ago and eventually it's just evolved and it's now like a really big part of it. But really it's the demonstration that we do. Like when we go to the conferences are usually held all over Ontario for the Ontario conferences and then all over Canada for the the competitions or the conferences that happen. So what we end up doing is we'll usually, whatever the location is, we'll research it and then we'll design some sort of project that kind of, it reaches out to the community and kind of grasps the community. And it's also, we get to show off what we can do. Like a lot of people, for us, when people talk about trades, they talk about plumbing, electrical, carpentry, all those things come up and nobody ever says sheet metal. And a lot of people don't know what sheet metal workers do or, what's in that trade or what it is. A lot of people think it's hanging duct or doing residential homes, and it's not. There's so much more that we accomplish. Our trade is so broad. And this is one of the things, like we like working with copper. We do a lot of architectural roofs and buildings and cupolas and little things like that. So usually these competition, we take the best out of Ontario. For all the locals that are in Ontario, they usually have a regional competition, I would say, and then it would go to the the top. They would put into the Ontario competition. So at that Ontario competition, we build a project for wherever we end up. The last one was in Thunder Bay, and you can see the snowblower right there
Very
behind me.
appropriate for Thunder Bay. Yeah.
Very
Yep.
appropriate. Yeah. Yeah, and it's so here at the training center we get to design and build these projects and challenge the students to do it. But we all obviously they get a day to do this, so we really go and work with them and help them develop. But it's outside in the community, and people come up and they ask, and they're amazed at what we do. So it's kind of showing off what we can do, and it's also just kind of making people aware of what sheet metal workers do. But it's also a great time. The apprentices that go to these competitions, they have a fantastic time, and I've seen them all grow up. There's 4 of them that work here that were in the competition, and now they're instructing because they were, some of the students that come through the school, the apprentices that come through the school are brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to eventually become a teacher or to teach the industry. Like I think a big part of our trades, which kind of got lost for a little while, was teaching what we know and their knowledge and passing it along for the apprentices that you're working with. And I think we got to be more adaptive to the new apprentices coming in and really start guiding them and give them, because you don't know what you have, and if you give them the opportunity to learn. So really push that. But this is just kind of something that we've done it for years here at the training center, and we're proud of it, and we love seeing those projects, and the response we get from the communities is huge. So I appreciate you noticing that, Brian, because it's a nice thing that we do. I was trying to showcase them back here for you.
And I got to tell you, I was blown away when I came into the center, because it's certainly not something you immediately think about, but to see just the level of detail and professionalism within them, it was pretty impressive. Now, I'd like to talk. I'm glad you brought up community, because I want to talk a little bit about the role that the training centers play in the community. Because let's face it, unless you're a potential apprentice's parent who is in the trades kind of thing, they may not know about the trade. They may not know that it's a viable career option. So what role do you play in promoting the trades in the training center to these potential apprentices within the community?
Yeah, you know what? But I'll tell you, I am seeing a bit of a shift, and just recently I'm seeing a bit of a shift with guidance counselors being a little bit more on board, school principals, shop teachers in schools, a little bit more interested in the trades now. I think they're seeing the light and understanding that some of their actually great students that they have at high schools, this is the avenue for them. For us, what we've been a part of, and I believe OCS was part of it for years, was it's called Level Up now. Is one of the things that we go
It
to.
was future
We
building,
take
I think, when we had it.
future
Yep.
future build. Yeah,
Yep.
Jim Wright, I think, used to do a
Yep.
great job down there with his cowboy hat on, and we'd all meet up with Jim, his cowboy hard hat on. But you know what? We enjoyed going to them. There was thousands of students come, and you know what? It was funny. The sheet metal booth that we put there was very busy. They hated the whistles that we made it, but that we used to hand out to them. But you know what? The apprentices or the students that came there, they got to actually work with their hands, and they were really happy to do stuff like that. The University Avenue and the College Avenue for some is a great pathway. Um, the trades is also a great pathway.
Yeah.
We are trying to get that word across. We also, we have one of our instructors down in Kingston this week working with Tomorrow Trades and taking a group of 14, I believe it's 14 students that are interested in being in the trades, and they're doing a 4-day sheet metal course with us.
Yeah.
So kind of give them the introduction to sheet metal and a trade, and they're gonna see other trades. But that's the idea: is if the communities are interested and the school systems are interested, then we're interested. We'd love to see more involvement from the schools, and we're willing to take, come to our training center. We'll take you on a tour. We work with many different projects like the Hammerheads, like very successful avenues that people have gone down to. I look at our board, for instance, and it's the owners and all the business. Like these, everyone here was an apprentice. Like they
Yeah.
went through an apprenticeship. It's not.
Yeah.
They came out of university and said, "I'm going to start a sheet metal company." And what we need to start thinking over the future is we want to develop within our industries as well, because it is the apprentices that are going to open up companies, and that's how we're going to be able to, create a good market and a strong market is by having educated apprentices throughout their training, and eventually we should be looking at educating them on a little bit more business as they grow and as they get along the trade. Because I know there's a lot of um, people that are owners of companies that are kind of going like, once I'm done and I'm retiring, I don't think this is going to continue anymore. They need to have some sort of succession plan. I really hope like maybe OCS or somebody would be putting together some sort of structure where we're looking at creating business owners out of the trades. Because I don't think a lot of kids and parents, especially that don't know anything about the trades, there's a stigma from years ago that, oh, if you're in the trades, you weren't very good in school, or you were. I'm sorry, what you can find some amazing apprentices coming through the system that are absolutely brilliant,
Yep.
but they're great with their hands, and this is what they want to do, and they'll be very successful.
Well, and it's so when we were at that Trades Trainer Summit, I got the opportunity to talk to a number of the trainers throughout the province and some of the programs they have built with high schools. So whether they send some of their trainers into the shop classes where the school may not have the ability, they don't have the capacity to be able to teach the students, they help to augment some of that so that the kids do get that exposure, even out to, I think it's the Carpenter Center that's out in Windsor. They actually have the high school integrated right into their training center as well for students, where that's the avenue that they're going to take. So there's a number of really innovative examples of how we're starting to sort of shift that stigma, trying to get people away from that, in the way that some of those classes are modeled. It's one of the things that I find interesting about the education system, because it's sort of this constant pendulum swing of funding for shop classes. And my son right now, he's 17 years old. He's going to a brand new school in Niagara, and they have a great shop program. That shop program has a ton of money that they put towards Skills Ontario and that sort of stuff, where they're trying to get students who are good with their hands into the trades, trying to get them energized about it and see that, yeah, these are great career options. But, unfortunately, over the past 30 years, a lot of those budget cuts and pushing people towards the more sort of tech industries has now resulted in this skilled trade shortage. So, when we take a look at it from that perspective, and now that we're starting to, people are looking at the trades saying, hey, these are great careers. We need to start going that way. What's something that you would tell a student or a parent about a career in the skilled trades?
Wow, I could say like a younger me. I started off, I went to university and then I tried the college route and then eventually I ended up going into the trades. It was, you know, I wasn't, I didn't have any intentions of university thinking. Like I didn't have a plan. Like, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And, so I was like, well, I have to go to university. That's what you have to do. Right. Like
Uh-huh.
you're done grade 12. You're going to university now. And it's not the right avenue for everybody. And that's okay. And I think people really have to understand that being a skilled trade worker and developing your skills, your problem solving, like it's a huge thing and very successful. I think people get the stigma that tradespeople don't make a lot of money. And unfortunately, um, you know, if people looked and seen um, what tradespeople do make, they'll understand that actually it's a very viable career. And I think that's the thing. And we always want what's best for your kids. I'm older now. I have two daughters, but I've got their boyfriends are both like one's in auto body, the other one's in carpentry. Like they have an avenue. I'm not worried about them as they get older and what's going to happen with them. These kids are developing skills that are going to keep them working for the rest of their lives. You
Yeah.
know, I love that the parents want to be a part of it, but I guess um, the knowledge. I think it's partially on us too, Brian. To be honest, I think we need to get more involved, and I think we have to kind of expose more of our industry to show them like, and it's all the trades. Like I think it's not just sheet metal; it's everybody that we have to be a little bit more attentive to parents and hitting those high schools and giving them the avenue. But again, like I am saying, I am seeing a shift in the way the high schools are looking at it, and I'm seeing a shift in guidance counselors. But again, we have to put our stick our necks out and put our foot forward and say we need to go approach these high schools and get these young kids thinking, hey, maybe this is an avenue for me. And it's not, well, I can't go to university. I'm going to do a trade. It's, hey, I'm going to go do a trade. Like
Yeah.
I'm excited about this. This is what I'm going to do. So
Yeah.
the stigma is always there, and I think we're slowly breaking that away, and I think we have to.
So it's, and I would even add to, putting the money thing even aside, there's a great paycheck there. There's the sense of accomplishment too. Like when I go around
Yeah,
sort of the city of Toronto or around Niagara and I can point out all the buildings that I played a role in building, there's this great feeling of pride within me that I get by being able to say, hey, I did that. Whereas now when I look at my current role, there's not that same level of pride with, I helped write that report or, and no offense to this podcast, but did that podcast kind of thing. It's when there's a physical bricks and mortar building in front of you where you're saying, yeah, I did that. I remember, building, whatever your role was within it. There is that piece, there's that tangible, sense of accomplishment that you have out of it. So, I want to flip that question towards a buyer of construction services now. So, what would you tell them about the value of a union trained journey person versus somebody who really hasn't gone through that formal apprenticeship? So somebody who's just kind of, whether it's the jack of all trades or somebody who's just kind of come about the trade by happenstance, what would you tell that buyer of construction from your perspective?
wow. The One of the main things I really am concerned about it is safety. Like on the job and in construction industry, if you're not working and you know under somebody that's very good, supervised training is what you should be doing, and you should be like safety is first. Like everybody, we say it a lot. It's like when you go to a job site, you want to go home. You don't want to be injured. You don't want to have that. So I think one of the big things is safety is at work, and typically we train to develop clean working environments, safe working environments, and we usually have ratios that we have journey person to apprentice ratios, and it's for a reason. It's so that those apprentices can learn properly and learn the safety issues that may come into play while they're working. um, I know that we've always developed and given everybody in the training, the unions really stick to their guns about it, is making sure that, you know, the the tools for the job are there for actual, just even the building of the projects, but also the safety tools are there. The training is there, the job block talks that they do, like mandatory things that they put in place. Um, you know, the even the washroom facilities and stuff like that, that they're a lot of times that's a big deal when you're working on a job site. The unions are stepping in and saying, you're getting paid this amount of money, and you're going to be working on a clean site, and you're going to be doing these things. And if there is any issues, that you can go to them and turn around and say, as a worker, you can turn around and say, this isn't meeting the standard, and that they will get it fixed for you. Um,
Yes.
for somebody looking to buy into that, is like, you want a workforce that's going to be diligent. You're going to want them to be efficient. You want them to get the job done on time. And the way to do that is you have a nice clean environment, you have a process that's working, and you have everybody that's got the knowledge. Um, we train knowledge of our whole trade into an apprenticeship, and then you fine tune where you are, like what avenue that you're going to go down through your apprenticeship, what facet of the industry are you going to take on. And everybody that's working there, you have that. It's like a ladder that you're climbing every time. Like, you're gaining a year of experience, 2 years of experience, 3, and everybody's going to go through that process. And you've got people that are there higher up on that ladder that are going to kind of show you the way. And
Hmm.
that's kind of the thing. But I think again, efficiency, yes, get the job done, and get the job done on budget and on time is key. But it's also that you're going to create a safe environment. Nobody wants a workplace accident, and
Yeah.
you'll never stop them from happening, but you're going to minimize them as best you can. And I think the unions really put an emphasis on the safety training. This is something that scares me, that I hear some young people telling me that they're doing an apprenticeship, and they're not registered with the ministry, and they're not working in the right environments. And I kind of ask them, it's like, how do you know you're an apprentice if you're not registered with the
Yeah.
ministry, or with STO, or how is it going? And I don't ever want them to be taken advantage of. I don't ever want them to get hurt. So the real thing is I ask them about their safety training. Did you do all this stuff? Did you do your witness training? Did you do your fall arrest? Are you doing working at heights? Are you first aid? Like, are you doing all these things before you're getting onto a job site and putting yourself in that situation? Because that's scary to me.
Yeah. Well, I think when you break it down even further with some of this, it's really about the risk mitigation too, from the buyer of construction perspective. Making sure that you're getting the most highly trained people out there. You're getting people who know what they're doing. They're being supervised appropriately. They're doing things safely. I mean, let's face it, this is a big investment. Any construction project is a major investment for any buyer that's out there. They want to make sure that something delivered on time, on budget, safely. They, most of them have this corporate conscience that basically says, hey, I want to make sure that anything that I'm paying somebody to do is done well. And that, there is that dignity component too, to that worker that, has to be maintained as well. So, making sure that all of those things are in place. And those are some of the benefits that you get with going down that union contractor side of things, for sure. So, yeah. So now I just wanted to take sort of a step back, just as we're sort of closing this up a little bit here. And, the goal of this podcast is not to say that universities or colleges are poor choices. For the right student in the right program, they are amazing institutions. But the same is true for someone looking for a career in the skilled trades. That was really the purpose of this. When you take a look at the training centers that are out there and the quality of training that they get, the oversight that each one of those apprentices has throughout their entire apprenticeship journey, and making sure that they're able to apply the skills that they learn, appropriately for the year of apprenticeship that they're in. These centers do that kind of thing. So it really is ultimately about setting them up for success by getting them into kind of that training center and starting that apprenticeship off on the right foot. The fact is it's if you're anything like I was when I was growing up, it was kind of like there was 5 careers you were kind of told about. It was like doctor, lawyer, engineer, those kinds of things. Like there were like these jobs that all had to go through university, and that's all well and good for some people. You can have the greatest architect or the greatest engineer, designing the most incredible building. But if you don't have anyone skilled enough to build it, it's not really worth the paper it's printed on. And I think that's really where these training centers come in, is it's okay, do the design stuff over here, and somebody's going to love that job. But then this provides that place for the people who go, now I want to build that. I want the sense of accomplishment. I want that hands-on experience of actually building something. And the training centers really kind of give that, that kind of that platform to learn it, experience it, and, provide that successful launch to their career. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Scott, for your time today on OCS Talks. For more information on today's podcast, registration for upcoming labor relations courses, or resources from the Ontario Construction Secretariat, visit our website at iciconstruction.com and follow us on social media.
Ontario Construction Secretariat. Knowledge to build on. Visit iciconstruction.com to learn more.